And so let's dive into it here. Shortcut number one, it goes like this. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." And Jesus answered, "It is written, man does not live on bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of God." I mentioned earlier, our goal for today is that we'd all walk out of here knowing what the temptations are and also why they were so tempting and also how we can defeat temptation in our lives. And so for each one of these temptations, I'm going to give you a word that'll help you remember it, and then just a quick phrase that'll help you remember what the temptation was. And so if you're a note taker, this is a great thing to write down. Shortcut number one, what's really going on here? Well, bread will help you to remember what's happening in shortcut one, the word bread. And the temptation that's going on is, does God love you? Bread, does God love you? What's going on here is that Satan is questioning the Father's love for Jesus. He's saying, if your dad loved you so much, Jesus, why would he lead you out to this desert? Why would he leave you in this desert? I mean, Jesus, why wouldn't he just give you something to eat? Jesus, look around at all these stones. Just take one of them and turn it into one of those rolls that they have at Texas Roadhouse. You know, those warm ones with the cinnamon butter? Just one, Jesus. Doesn't that sound delicious? Really, what Satan was asking Jesus to do was to doubt God's love and then to shortcut God's perfect timing by providing for himself instead of waiting for God to do it. And isn't this a huge temptation for us still now? I mean, we hate waiting, don't we? And so often we have the ability to provide for ourselves. And so our idea is this: I'm just going to pull myself up by my bootstraps, and I'm going to run ahead of God's timing, and I'm going to provide for myself because waiting stinks. I wonder, when does Satan whisper to you, if God really loved you, he wouldn't let you experience the waiting that you're experiencing now? So many times we're tempted to run ahead of God instead of waiting for his provision. Times where maybe we take ourselves or our kids to the doctor, or we give ourselves medicine, and then as an afterthought we say, oh yeah, why don't I pray about that and see if that works, instead of making that our first response. Times where when we're in a job crisis or a financial crisis or a health situation is beating us, and we worry, or we run ahead of God's provision and we try to create a solution to the problem that God has never told us to try to create. Maybe for you, your shortcut is this: instead of waiting for God's financial provision in your life, you just go ahead and you swipe that plastic and you say, we'll worry about how we're going to pay for that later. And you're not waiting on God's provision and his timing. You know, Satan, he offers Jesus this easy shortcut, and Jesus says to him, I'm not taking your shortcut because I know that there's so much more to life than just me meeting my physical needs. And besides, speaking of bread, Satan, when I get back to heaven, Moses has this manna recipe that is to die for. You can wait a little bit. And so the next time you're in a difficult situation and Satan whispers to you, does God really love you? Why is he letting you go through this? You can say, yes, I know God loves me, and I'm trusting that his timing and that his plan and his provision for when this situation is going to end, I'm trusting it's the best. And so shortcut number one is bread. Does God really love you?